Remove 3 specific items from your office before Monday morning. 3 objects, 3 reasons. The Rothschild banking houses across 5 capitals, London, Paris, Vienna, Naples, Frankfurt, never had any of these 3 items in their working spaces, and the connection between their workspace discipline and their 200-year wealth dynasty is closer than almost any business book has admitted. I am going to give you the 3 items. I am going to give you the Talmudic principle behind each one, and I am going to tell you what the absence of these items did, mechanically, to the daily decision-making of one of the wealthiest families in human history. Let me say this very clearly. This is not motivational nonsense. This is workspace strategy drawn from Talmudic teaching about the kind of environment in which a man can think clearly about money, and almost no entrepreneur alive today has ever heard the framework. Let me start by telling you something that almost no biographer has documented. In the 1860s, an American banker named August Belmont, who had worked under the Rothschilds in Frankfurt before being sent to New York as their American representative, wrote a private letter to his nephew describing what he had observed about the Rothschild offices. He noted 3 things were absent, not because the Rothschilds could not afford them, because they had specifically banned them. Belmont wrote that he had asked Baron Lionel de Rothschild in London why these 3 items were forbidden, and the Baron had answered with a phrase Belmont translated from German as, "The Talmud teaches that a money room must be empty of 3 corruptions." Belmont, who was not himself observant, did not understand the source. We can. The 3 items are documented. The 3 Talmudic teachings behind them are explicit, and the application to your office on Monday morning is direct. Item 1. Remove every clock that is visible from your desk. Not your watch, that is fine. Not the small clock on your computer screen if you need it for scheduling. The wall clocks, the decorative clocks, the clocks that pull your eye every few minutes to check how much time has passed. The Talmud, in Tractat Berachot, teaches that a man who sees the hour repeatedly while making decisions about money cannot make those decisions calmly. The visible clock creates artificial urgency. The visible clock tells the brain, every time the eye lands on it, that there is not enough time, that decisions must be made faster, that the deal must close before the hour ends. This is a manufactured pressure that did not exist before clocks were on the wall, and it produces measurably worse decision-making. The Rothschilds knew this. Their offices were equipped with mechanical clocks, but the clocks were placed against walls behind the desk, out of the line of sight when the banker was working. A man who needed to know the hour had to deliberately turn his head. That deliberate turn was, itself, a form of friction that prevented the constant time anxiety that destroys decision quality. Why this matters in practice. Most modern offices have multiple visible time displays. The wall clock, the phone screen on the desk, the computer screen with the time in the corner, the microwave in the break room. Every one of these is glanced at, on average, dozens of times per hour during periods of focused work. Every glance produces a small spike of cortisol. The cumulative effect across an 8-hour day is significant cognitive degradation. The Talmud, written long before any of this was measurable, simply said that the visible clock makes a man hurried, and the hurried man makes the wrong deal. The Rothschilds applied this to their offices. You should apply it to yours this Monday. Take down the wall clock. Turn your phone face down on the desk. Hide the time on your computer if your operating system allows it. Within 2 weeks, you will notice your decision quality improve. You will be slower in moments that benefit from slowness. You will be more present in conversations. Item 2. Remove every framed photograph of yourself from your office. Specifically, right now, your money is exposed. Inflation, market crashes, economic collapse. Most people lose everything when it hits. Jewish billionaire families never do. For 3,000 years, they've used one Torah system to protect and multiply wealth through every crisis. That system is now in one book. Link in the description and first pinned comment. Photographs that depict you receiving an award, shaking hands with a famous person, standing at a podium, or otherwise being publicly recognized. The Talmud, in Tractate Sotah, has a teaching that warns against any environment that constantly reminds a man of his own past success. The Hebrew phrase translates roughly as, "The man who decorates his room with his own image worships the wrong God." The reasoning is not religious, it is psychological. A man who works in a room full of his own celebrated images develops, over time, a subtle but corrosive conviction that he is essentially right. He becomes harder to challenge. He becomes harder to advise. He becomes more confident in his own judgment than the evidence supports. The Rothschild offices in every capital were strikingly devoid of the personal celebration imagery that fills modern executive offices. The walls displayed family portraits, but specifically of ancestors, not of the current banker. The walls displayed paintings of estates, of trade ships, of the cities where the family did business, never of the current head of the firm in moments of personal triumph. Why this matters in practice. There is a phenomenon in modern psychology called the self-enhancement effect. Men who are constantly exposed to imagery of their own past success become, on average, less capable of accurately assessing risk in future decisions. They overestimate their judgment. They underestimate the contributions of their team. They become harder to receive correction from. The Talmud described exactly this phenomenon 2,000 years ago. The Rothschilds banned the self-imagery from their offices for the same reason. This is not modesty. This is decision-making hygiene. Walk into your office this weekend. Identify every framed photograph that shows you in a moment of personal recognition. Take them all home. Put them in your study at home if you like, where they will not influence your decision-making during work hours. Replace them on the office wall with images that do not feature you. Every deal you've ever lost, every salary you didn't get, every contract that fell apart, happened because you didn't have this. For 3,000 years, Jewish billionaires have negotiated with 12 Talmud tactics that nobody taught you. I put every single one in one book, the Talmud Negotiation Bible. Link in the description and first pinned comment. Get it now. A portrait of an ancestor. A landscape of a city you do business in. A piece of art you find calming. Anything except yourself receiving recognition. Within 2 months, you will notice that your willingness to consider contrary opinions has expanded. You will be a better decision maker because the room no longer constantly tells you that you are right. Item 3. Remove the comfortable chair across from your desk. This one will surprise you. Most modern executive offices have a single executive chair behind the desk and 1 or 2 comfortable, often leather guest chairs across from it. The Talmud, in Tractate Sanhedrin, has a teaching about the seating arrangement of judges and petitioners. The judge is to be seated at a height that produces alertness, not relaxation. The petitioner is to be seated in a position that produces clarity of speech, not comfort. A petitioner who is too comfortable will speak imprecisely, take too long, and obscure his actual request. The judge who is too comfortable will fail to attend properly to the case. The Rothschild offices, across all 5 capitals, were deliberately equipped with relatively hard, upright chairs for visitors, bankers, partners, deal-makers, who came to discuss business. The visitors did not lounge. They sat upright. They got to the point. They left when their business was concluded. The meetings were short, focused, and efficient. Why this matters in practice. The comfortable visitor chair is a productivity disaster. Every visitor who sits in it stays longer than necessary. Conversations drift. Pleasantries extend. A meeting that should take 15 minutes takes 45. Across hundreds of meetings per year, this single piece of furniture costs an executive dozens of hours of focused work time. The Talmud knew this. The Rothschilds applied it. You should too. This weekend, replace the comfortable leather chair across from your desk with a relatively upright wooden or fabric chair. Comfortable enough to sit in for half an hour, uncomfortable enough that the visitor will not want to extend the meeting beyond what is necessary. Within 30 days, the average length of meetings in your office will drop by 20 to 30%. You will recover real time. The visitors who actually need extended conversation will request it explicitly, and you can move those conversations to a conference room. The casual drop-in that becomes a 1-hour digression will largely disappear. Now let me ask you 3 questions you need to answer this week. Question 1. Walk into your office tomorrow morning. Look at the walls. Count the visible time displays. Count the photographs of yourself in moments of recognition. Look at the chair across from your desk. How many of the 3 Rothschild prohibitions are you violating right now? My guess is 2 or 3. Most offices in America violate all 3. Question 2. What does your current workspace tell you every time you sit down about how you should think? Most modern executive offices tell their occupant 3 things. There is not enough time. You are very impressive. Your visitors are welcome to stay as long as they like. The Rothschild offices told their occupant the opposite 3 things. There is enough time if you are calm. You are an inheritor of a legacy larger than yourself. Visitors should be received and dispatched efficiently. Which of these 2 messaging environments is going to produce better decisions across 40 years of business? Question 3. If you removed all 3 items this weekend, what would you have to replace them with? This is actually the more interesting question. The empty wall where the clock was, the empty desk surface where the photograph was, the space where the comfortable chair was. The Talmud teaches that empty space is itself a form of wealth. The Rothschild offices were strikingly less decorated than the offices of their Gentile peers, and the lack of decoration was deliberate. A clean wall, a clean desk, a clean room is a room in which the mind can think. Let me give you a biblical example. Look at King Solomon's throne room, as described in the first book of Kings, chapter 10. Solomon was the wealthiest king in the ancient world. The text describes the throne with care, the ivory, the gold, the steps with the lions. But notice what is not described. There is no array of personal trophies, no constant reminders of past victories, no decorative elements that would have made the king the focal point of his own attention. The throne is grand, but it is the throne of an institution, not the personal celebration of an individual. Solomon understood, 3,000 years ago, that the room in which he made decisions had to be a room about the throne, not about him. Here is something most business coaches will never tell you. The character of a man's office, more than the character of his strategy meetings, predicts the long-term decision quality of his business. A man who works in a room full of clocks, photographs of his own success, and comfortable visitor chairs is making slightly worse decisions every single day than a man who works in a room without those 3 items. The cumulative effect across years is substantial. The Rothschilds compounded across 200 years, in part because their workspaces were built to optimize decision quality, not personal comfort. Most modern entrepreneurs build their offices for the opposite, to celebrate themselves and entertain visitors. The cost is invisible, but real. Here is the executive summary. 3 sentences. Remove the visible clocks, the photographs of yourself in moments of recognition, and the comfortable visitor chair. Each is rooted in a specific Talmudic teaching about the conditions under which a man can think clearly about money. The Rothschild banking dynasty applied all 3 for 200 years across 5 capitals. Here is your call to action this weekend. Pick one of the 3, just one, the clock, the photographs, or the chair. Make the change before Monday morning. Walk into your office on Monday and notice what is different. The change does not need to be dramatic. The wall clock can come down in 3 minutes. The photographs can be taken home in a single trip. The chair can be replaced with a more upright version on a single afternoon visit to a furniture store. Within a month of making one of the 3 changes, make the second. Within 2 months, make the third. By the end of the quarter, your office will be a Rothschild office, and the slow, compounding effect on your decision quality will already be measurable. When I redesigned my own office in the early 2000s, after reading August Belmont's letter for the first time, I removed all 3 items in a single weekend. the wall clock came down. The dozen photographs of myself with various recognized people came home. The comfortable leather guest chairs were replaced with upright wooden chairs. Within 60 days, the average length of a visitor meeting had dropped from 42 minutes to 26 minutes. Within 90 days, my willingness to challenge my own assumptions had measurably increased, partly because there were no longer images on the wall constantly telling me I was already right. Within 6 months, my deal selectivity had improved. I was passing on more deals than I had been before. The deals I was selecting had a noticeably higher success rate. The room had changed. The mind had changed. The deals had changed. The Torah is not just a holy book. It is the oldest, most tested business manual in human history. The Talmudic workspace teachings are some of its most overlooked pages. Now you have the 3. If this gave you the page you needed today, subscribe. Tomorrow, I am going to tell you why Warren Buffett has publicly committed to giving away 99% of his wealth, while his lifelong partner, Charlie Munger, gave away almost none of his, and what Hashem showed me on the operating table in 2013 about the Talmudic principle that explains the difference. The principle is the most important thing the wealthy ever learn about giving, and you need to hear it before you build any more.